Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Jamaicans of North Texas. My name is Tony McCauley, and we went to see the movie One Love, um, featuring the story of Bob Marley this evening. And I'm not a movie critic by any means, I'm not qualified, but I did kind of just want to do a brief kind of review of, my thoughts about the movie and share them with those who might be interested in going. So I was born in London, of course, of Jamaican parents. And the music of Bob Marley, basically, from as far back as I can remember, we were familiar with him and knew his music very well. From the days of ska, when he did things like Simmer Down and Rude Boy and I'm Gonna Put It On, to when, just as Jamaican music evolved, he kind of evolved as well. And we went on to kind of Catch a Fire, which I believe he released around about 1973, where the music had evolved more to reggae as we know it. And I've just always been a fan. I was fortunate enough to see him in concert. Oh, I think it was maybe 74, maybe 75. There was a big concert at a place in London called Alexander Palace, which is basically a hall. And the Wailers, they just bought the house down, and it was a great concert. And I'll probably never forget it. My parents were very involved in the Jamaican scene at the time in London. They used to keep dances and hold events at various places. Sometimes they were part of an organization that sponsored, would bring artists from Jamaica to the UK to do shows. By that time, Bob Marley was kind of out of their reach, but they did put on a few shows with some other entertainers. So, I've always had a great love for Bob Marley. I think he's a musical genius, and the music lives on today. So, it is a good movie. But if you're looking for a sort of from the womb to the tomb type of thing, sort of story of Bob Marley that traces him, like the rags to riches story from his earliest childhood, through to his, musical career until the time he died. This movie is not about, it doesn't present his life in that way. What you get is sort of snapshots. And I think the whole movie kind of focuses around that time in the 70s, maybe 74 through 76, when there was a lot of political violence in Jamaica, a lot of crime. And, unfortunately, even though Bob was not for any political party, he was such a strong voice for the people at that time that, he kind of got involved as a peacemaker. So it kind of takes snapshots, from that time, of his life. And it was round about that time that he was beginning to get more popular on a global basis. So, he was beginning to get that international recognition and, the music, which really took off in the UK first. And then it spread to other parts of Europe. And then obviously, he got his chance to be heard here in the United States. So it's kind of around about that time where a lot of that is kind of coming together. So you just get brief glimpses. You get glimpses here and there. Kingsley Benadir, I think he does capture the spirit of Bob Marley quite well. And I think there's even a kind of a resemblance. It's not too hard to imagine him being, Bob Marley. Lashana Lynch was absolutely, to me, her performance was the standout. I think she really captured the essence of Rita Marley extremely well. And it was actually quite nice to see those scenes where you had the two of them interacting together, which really we don't know a whole lot about. So it was nice to kind of see that being brought to the stage. I think, those parts that were actually shot in Jamaica were very good. It kind of captured everything. You saw, glimpses of Trench Town, and, some of it was, filmed for the movie, and some of it was, from maybe news footage of that time. The music was excellent. Um, I don't know if Kingsley actually did sing this. I think I read or heard somewhere that it's possible that it really was Bob. Most of those songs were Bob Marley. Uh, Bob Marley did the actual vocals, and but he performed it very, very well. And I think he really did capture the spirit and the essence of Bob Marley extremely well. And I believe that Rita Marley and the Marley family did have a lot to do with this movie. So obviously they were on hand, to give pointers, I guess, and, creative advice. Now, the movie was kind of choppy and bitty in places. Like I said, it's not one of these continuing stories where you see him as a babe and right until the time that he died. It kind of just, pulls little glimpses here and there's. And the story is kind of told in sort of flashbacks, but it's not really like a continuing sort of story, So, Bob Marley, he was a great musician. I do see him as a modern day prophet. The music still lives on today. But, he was a complex person. We all know, he was married to Rita, but, there were other women that were very, very prominent in his life. And the movie doesn't really sort of focus on that. I do know that when he kind of spent that 2 or 3 years in London, that Cindy Breakspear, who was the Jamaican lady who became Miss World, at that time, actually, his relationship was primarily with her more than with Rita. But the movie doesn't really kind of focus too much on that. So all told, I actually enjoyed it. I loved the music. I think the way the music was presented, and I think probably, even though it always sounded good, I think now today that, they have, better quality audio, you really got the vibe. You really got the vibe in the theater, so it's kind of hard. You would kind of really want to get up and dance to it. It was that good. So, all told, I'd say it was a great movie. I did enjoy it. Um, I think the worst thing about it to me was I do wonder why, when Bob Marley has children and grandchildren, many of whom have gone into music like him, why they didn't actually choose a Jamaican for the part. All the main characters are UK second or third Jamaican Brits, just like me. I'm first Jamaican Black Brit, first generation Black Brit. But these characters would be second generation Black Brits because they're the age of our kids are or would be. So the accents, in my view, were not very convincing. I think they tried to pull it off. But, even though I was born in the UK and left there several years ago, I've always pretty much lived in a Jamaican community. And even though I don't speak that way myself, naturally I can put it on. I think even I could have done a better job with those accents than they did. I mean, it was authentic. It just wasn't authentic. To me, that took away from the authenticity.
I think a Jamaican person would pick up on that, but people, who are not Jamaican probably would go over their heads. And one of the ladies that we got speaking to after the movie in a little kind of hello session, she actually was an American, I believe, and she said she wished that there were subtitles because, she didn't understand a lot of it. Well, to me, I understood every word, but I'm like, my parents definitely didn't sound like that. I just thought that the accents could have been a little better, and I think it might have been a bit better if they'd actually used a Jamaican for those parts, but it's just my opinion. The two lead characters did portray they did well. So that's the end of it for me. I don't know whether my words carry any weight or not, but I would encourage you to go and see the movie. And hopefully, the next time the Jamaicans of North Texas, we try, hopefully round about Independence or so, we might try and do a little meet and greet in some kind of way, shape, or form. I do hope that, you'll be able to join us. In the meantime, good night and God bless.